Brothers, there are 6 elements that you need in your life if you want to reach optimum health. If you want to be in your element, you've got to have 6 things in your life, and you can't do without each one. Right at the top is having a ridiculously healthy, rich, nutritious diet. If you get that right, everything else will follow. If you get that wrong, everything else can just go out the window. The second thing is being regularly physically active. What I mean by that is at least 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, of some form of physical activity every single day. The third thing is managing your mental health, managing your stress levels, managing your emotional state. You have to get that right, because quite frankly, stress kills. You ask anybody who's going through a difficult, stressful period in their life, or depression, anxiety, whatever mental health problem they're going through, they really, really struggle. And they don't feel good physically, neither do they feel good psychologically. The fourth thing is sleep. Making sure that you get at least 7 to 9 hours over a 24-hour period of having decent sleep, solid sleep. The fifth thing is avoiding what's known as substance misuse. Now, what medics are doing now in that fifth element, the sixth one is spiritual growth. Without spiritual growth, you will never feel in your element. But the fifth one about substance misuse, commonly, when we think about substance misuse, what do we talk about? When we say substance misuse, what do we think about? What do we talk about? Drugs, alcohol, right? That whole bit there fits into a little box about what's known as addictive type behavior. Now, what medics are doing now, they're putting all sorts into this substance misuse. In other words, misuse of something. And that whole little box, that one element, the fifth element, is known as addictive type behaviors. Addictions, commonly we refer to as drugs and alcohol, but addiction is defined as any taking a substance or taking something, or even now doing something repetitively, uncontrollably, but it interferes with your life in the negative. And now what medics are doing, they're putting addictive behavior, not just drugs and alcohol, what they're putting in there are things like gaming, internet, social media, exercise, even work for some people, shopping, pornography, anything that puts somebody into that addictive state. Does that make sense? That's the fifth element, and that's one of the things that I'm here to talk about today. And then I'm here in the afternoon, after Asr. I think that's at 7:15 today. We're just scratching the surface here now, and we'll do a deep dive later on in the afternoon. But the big question is why does it happen? If you understand why in anything in life, how to do it, how to make it work, how to fix it is 10 times easier, in fact 100 times easier. So what happens is a human being, there's lots of reasons why they slip into addictive types of behavior. There's genetics. If it's in your blood, addictive type of behavior, there's a risk of that carrying on through childhood in your children. The far biggest is mental health. Someone who's going through a difficult situation in their life, a turbulent situation, or they're struggling with a mental health problem, or they've had trauma, then what happens is they can easily slip in. There's about a 50% risk of slipping into addictive type of behaviors. And then there's boredom, peer pressure, being in the wrong crowd, wanting to fit in, and so forth. But one of the biggest causes that we've mentioned is mental health. Experiencing something traumatic or going through an illness, a mental health illness, can be a trigger to any form of addictive behavior. Why is that? What happens is when a human being is going through a difficult period of their life, it's natural for the human being to look for an avenue to make that stop, just to stop that difficult state. And the right thing to do is to be what's called solution focused. It's not your fault that you've experienced something not nice in your life. It's not your fault that you're going through something that's difficult in your life. It's not your fault that you've experienced trauma. But it's 100% your absolute responsibility to sort that out. Does that make sense? It's your responsibility and nobody else's. So the right thing to do is to seek a solution. Seek the right avenue for help. Like, you'll see Spinny Hill in the back there. If you're going through a difficult period with, say, drug addiction, plus minus, a mental health issue, that's the right people to go to in Leicester. Now, what can happen sometimes, by accident most of the time, you can slip into something that makes you feel better for a short period of time. Let's take a classical example, having a spliff. You just stumble across somebody who happens to be selling weed. Just take this, it'll make you chill. You'll feel good for about 1 hour, 2 hours, just take a chill pill. Or let's take something that we're seeing more and more often now. Phones, gaming, YouTube, social media, endlessly scrolling on this device for hours on end. What happens to the brain in these processes? It's the same chemical reaction in the brain with phones, pornography, drugs, alcohol, shopping if you're addicted to it. What goes on in the brain? When a human being has that first spliff, or they see something really stupid on YouTube that makes them laugh, or on social media, the key hormone that's released is a hormone called dopamine. What's the hormone called? Dopamine. This is the most important hormone that you need to remember in your life. Dopamine is released. Now, the first time you have a spliff, not you, I'm sure no one's done it here, but if you have a spliff, right? Or you watch something that just makes you laugh on social media, dopamine levels go really, really high and you feel good. It actually makes you feel happy. The nature of the brain is that when something makes you feel happy, you go back to it again. Does that make sense? The nature of the brain, that anything that makes you feel happy, makes you feel good, you'll go back to it again, even if you don't want to. Subconsciously, you'll find a way of getting back to it. So what happens is, you feel sad, you feel down, you're going through some depressive type, period in your life. You have a spliff, or you do something, you see something that makes your dopamine levels go up. You feel good, dopamine levels go up, dopamine levels go down. How do you feel when it goes down? You start to feel bad again, right? Start to feel sad again. What's the natural reflex at that point? You go back to it again. This is where the problem lies. The first time you've done something that makes your dopamine levels go high, whether it's a spliff, weed, whether it's drugs, alcohol, watching something stupid on the internet, even pornography and so forth, when it makes your happy hormones go high, the first time is quite high. The problem is the second time, it never goes as high as the first time. It still makes you feel happy, still makes you feel good, still makes you feel, escapism from that difficult period you're going through. But it never goes as high as the first time. So what's the reaction? What does a human being do? Yes, they go hard. So one spliff didn't work, they'll have to take 2. Okay? That one video on YouTube didn't work this time, I'll have to watch 2. Now before you know it, if a person doesn't keep that in check, then you get lost. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, and you're locked basically. You're locked in that addictive cycle, and that's with everything. I'll give you an example. How many of you do this? When you're with your mates and you're all talking and then it goes quiet, what's the normal thing? It's not normal, but what do people do? Huh? Somebody said something then. When you're with your friends, no one's talking, what do people do? They get their phone out. They get their phone out and there's nothing to look at. There's absolutely nothing to look at. There's nothing to respond to. And they just scroll up and down. And when one person does it, everybody else starts to do it. And you see now, you look at friend circles, they're all in a circle, and instead of talking, they're all on their phone. Not even talking to each other. That's a sign of an addict who's addicted to their phone. About 73% of children in this country say, I'm addicted to my phone and social media. 61% of adults say, I'm addicted to my phone. 97% of children say, my phone is getting in the way of my studies. My phone is getting in the way of my studies. 1 in 2 people, adults in this country, at any given time are watching pornography because they're addicted. 1 in 5 adults, engage in taking drugs. So you can see now that that addictive behavior is quite a problem. Why is it a problem? Kills your time, ruins your health, ruins relationships, makes you broke as a joke. Really, it just completely ruins your time. And what's even worse is, imagine that's your legacy. Just have a think about that. That's your legacy. What did you do with your life? Spend 8 hours a day on my phone. The average for an adult in this country is to spend 8 hours a day on their mobile phone. For a child, it's 6.5. People swipe over 2,000 times a day for no reason. For no reason. They check their phones every 12 minutes for no reason. Not that they need to, not that they even want to. They just do it because they're programmed that way to release that dopamine. Now, if you knew you had 1 week to live, because the reality is you don't. Yesterday I was just outside of London visiting my wife's family, and I went to the graveyard to pay my respects to some of the family members. And there, there's 70-year-old, 101-year-old, 40-year-old, 16-year-old, 6-day-old. Truth is, We have no idea when we're about to go. Now, if you knew you had 1 week to live, how would you spend your time? You know the answer, I don't need to say it to you. Would you waste your time on that device? Would you waste your time gaming and so forth? You wouldn't. You know exactly what you'd do. You'd max out your last week of your life on this planet. The good news is that Allah's given every human being a chance to turn it around at any point. Literally. At any point of their life you can turn it around. There was a young boy, and it was during the first lockdown. He said, I got bored. His words, I got bored. I had nothing to do. So I picked up the Mus'haf and I memorized the Quran in 9 months. That's incredible. I was bored. What do people do when they're bored? They just doom scroll or game. There was another convert. He spent 1 year memorizing the Quran, and then the next year he learned Arabic, and he's still going. And the point is that at any point in your life you can turn your life around very, very easily. You just have to figure out, what do you want out of life? That's a big question that nobody asks themselves. What do you want out of life? And there's a difference between being rich and wealthy. Being rich is having loads of money, but that doesn't make you wealthy. I have patients where I work in Manchester. One guy, he spent over £30,000 on a number plate. On a number plate. Doesn't mean he's happy. So there's a difference between richness and wealth. Wealth is love, family, true friendship, meaningful career, your health. These sort of things are really what make you wealthy. Why am I having this conversation with you? Remember we talked about at the beginning, there's 5 elements that you need to be in your element in terms of your health, your mind, diet, exercise, managing mental health, sleep, and the 5th one is letting go of addictive type of behaviors. What was the hormone we talked about earlier? Dopamine. When we enter any form of addictive type of behavior, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gaming, screen, blah, 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 pornography, whatever, remember your dopamine's going ping, 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 ping all the time. It's what's called unearned dopamine. Unearned dopamine meaning that you haven't done anything, but you're making yourself feel happy, feel good with no effort. That is the road to creating a sloth. That's the road to creating a sloth. Remember, those that are married and those that are not married, women hate useless men. It's a fact of life. Cannot stand that guy who just can't be bothered, just sits on his butt all day doing jack all. Hate them. Can't be doing with them. Whereas actually what you want to become is a winner. Now when you have what's called earned dopamine, you're doing something that's meaningful, that's good, that's bigger than yourself. That's got nothing to do with you, but bringing a change to people around you or the world around you. You weren't created for no reason. You were created to leave your fingerprints on history. What's your legacy? We're going to leave behind. And if you're not making somebody else, forget your life, if you're not making somebody else's life easier, better, happier, you're wasting your time. What are you here for? But the good news is you can turn that around at any point. And how do you do that? Obviously you deal with your demons like we talked about earlier. But one thing that you want to do is do something. Take up a mission, a goal. Something in your life that you want to take up and think, I'm going to do something that's bigger than me, that has a higher purpose. You do that, watch your dopamine levels go up sky high. But the good news is that what that will do, earned dopamine, won't make you into an addict, but it will make you into somebody great. It will make you into a giant. It will make you into a legend. Because your dopamine that's that one hormone that's keeping you going to do something amazing. You see the difference between unearned dopamine and earned dopamine? That's my message just over the 15 minutes. I'm just scratching the surface. This evening I'm here Asr time at 7:15 to talk about addictions. We're doing a deep dive. How does it happen? Why does it happen? Most importantly, how do you fix it? Because it's really complicated. It's not, can't do it in 15 minutes. If you are struggling with an addiction with anything, take drugs and alcohol, take gaming, internet, social media, pornography, all these things that people are addicted to, come. Or if you know somebody who's struggling, bring them. I think there'll be food. Don't quote me if there's not. Because usually when there's free food, people come up there. But I think there's food. But come, inshallah, hopefully it'll be of benefit to you. We'll stop there, inshallah, because I've gone over time. Yeah, I think it's time. Subhanallah. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu. Okay? Yeah, come out.
Brothers, if I can ask you to stand up and move forward, inshallah, filling the spaces in front of you. Zakariyya. Brothers, on the same topic as the Jumu'ah talk, there is a very important talk on the same subject, the same topic, on the topic of addiction, understanding addiction, inshallah, after Asr today. Asr will be at 7:15 today, just for today, inshallah ta'ala, and thereafter there will be a small short talk and a Q&A thereafter, inshallah. Children, bring everyone, and brothers and sisters, come down, inshallah. Everyone's welcome, inshallah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله الأكرم الذي خلق الإنسان وكرم وعلمه من البيان ما لم يعلم
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام، تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.